Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome back here to the Launchpad. Let us know if you can hear us in the chat. 555. We had to turn a microphone on there. If it's your first time here, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad, and I'm joined by Kieran Potter, who's with us here down in Florida for the launch of Artemis I. And we're going to be running through everything that happened today with the second launch attempt of Artemis I and answering your guys' comments and questions. So you can start sending those in the chat, and we'll be working on answering those over the next 45 minutes or so, and we'll be answering those live. We'll go through what we know for the next launch window that will be coming up and everything there. But to get started, we're out at NASA. What was your day like? What was your emotions from today?
Well, honestly, I started out pretty, excited as you would be. I mean, you're about to go and see SLS, which is an absolutely, everyone knows it's extremely powerful rocket. I mean, them SRBs are packing some power behind them. So you can imagine, super excited. But then as the day progressed, we were just I think we thought it was too good to be true. And then all of a sudden we got that news and it was like, and then all the excitement disappeared. It was just disappointment. And yeah, what about yourself?
I think same. I think we all woke up thinking everything looked good. The weather had improved overnight. We were 60 to 80% go. They said they had fixed everything on the rocket. We found out later that was a lie. But everything felt right. It felt good. Everything had progressed well until they started fueling ops. And that started on time, and then it was issue. And I think that's where I was like, okay, we're gonna go. We're gonna get on site. We're gonna be ready for this. And I don't think we were on site more than half an hour, actually on location, that we ended up getting that official no-go from the launch team to Charlie Blackwell Thompson, the launch director, and then another 45 minutes until the official scrub for that. So, but if you're just joining us, welcome here to the Launchpad. You're joining us for our Artemis I update and Q&A. We're going to be answering your guys' questions live, so you can begin sending those in the chat, and we'll be answering those over the course of this evening. And it can be anything related to the first launch attempt, today's launch attempt, the future of Artemis, and we'll be working on that.
So we have three questions three of the same question come in already, asking about when the next launch window is. So we do have that information.
Yeah. Run through it.
We do kind of think it could be a little later personally.
Yeah. So right now, NASA hasn't officially set a launch window.
Yeah.
They haven't even officially said they're rolling back, but they're like, we have to roll back. But they won't tell us they have to roll back. So we're waiting for that. We're going to have some more updates later, early in the week this week from them. But right now, based on kind of basic maths of how long it takes to do a week of rollback, at least a week to get ready to roll back out to the pad, a couple weeks in there, we're missing all of the September windows, and we will be pushing into that October window. That October window runs from October 17th to October 31st, so a mid to later October window. There is a window earlier in October, but it's not something that we'll be able to consider for two reasons. One, just the tightness on time of being able to roll back and actually have time to fix stuff. Today, during a press conference, a couple hours after scrub, they said this isn't a couple-day fix. It doesn't seem. It's going to be probably a few weeks. So the absolute earliest window we're thinking they're looking at is the 17th to the 31st of October. The other reason they can't look at that early window is Crew Dragon. They need to swap out the crews on the space station. They've been up there coming up on their 6-month mark, and we need to have that flexibility in the range to be able to have those Falcon 9 crews do their switchover. Now, if you've been following along through this launch window, it was pretty similar. Most of the days were 120-minute windows. They kind of rotated every couple days, down about an hour or so. This next window, if this is the one they end up going with, it ranges all over the place. It starts with a 45-minute window, then 90, then a couple of days it's a 120-minute window. Then over the course of 3 days, it goes all the way down to 7 minutes. I don't even think NASA would attempt on that day with the way things normally go. Then it jumps back to 120 minutes the next day, and it ends down at 18 minutes. So it fluctuates quite a bit. We do not have yet lengths of missions for these dates. NASA was targeting 39 to 42-day missions within this launch window, so we'll have to see. The shortest windows were kind of high 20s, low 30s, so we'll be still waiting for more info from NASA on whether they target that window officially or we get pushed into November or later, and it ultimately depends on what they seem to find inside the vehicle assembly building.
Yeah, it's nice that they plan on doing an actual wet dress.
It seems like it. Half the people say they're going to do one, and then half the people don't. But
they really should.
Let us know in the chat. Do you think they should do a full wet dress rehearsal where they do not have leaks before they announce actually a target launch window? I would say yes.
I would say yes, because we've had 2 attempts so far, and something's gone wrong.
We've had 2 attempts that were wet dress rehearsals where they didn't go wrong. So we'll wait to see on how that'll progress. If we do need to have a full wet dress, which I think we should, ultimately that means another rollback and another roll out. Not just 1, but now 2, because they have to reactivate the flight termination, and that takes time and a couple days. They have to do that in the VAB because they can't access it at the pad. So we're talking now 2 to 3 roll outs and ins from the VAB. So it's definitely going to add up some time for them to crack this all out. I still feel good, I think, about it launching by the end of the year getting it, in that 2022 timeframe, giving us, next year to get ready for Artemis II in 2024, and then really get this program rolling as we get later into the decade. Now, I know lots of questions are coming in. If you're just joining us, though, welcome here to the Launchpad. You're joining us for our Artemis update. We're down here in Florida. We were on site. We're going to be going through your questions. You can send those in the chat. Tag us at the Launchpad. It flags it in our system, and we'll be working on answering those live over the next little bit here. So we'll catch up right here on the questions. The first one there, what was the launch window? So we went over that. And a couple of those same questions there. We'll work on catching up through these.
I did see one later on in the chat as we're scrolling through saying, so is Monday possible? Like we said, there's not been anything super official, but going based on what they said in the briefing today, it's not looking likely that they're going to do anything for it. They're probably just going to say, no, we're going to have to scrub it. We're going to have to take it back to the VAB. We're going to have to do some work on it and bring it back out on a later date. Because it's not looking good for Monday after today. Because the leak was, 2-3 times worse than it should be, like in the safety limits?
Yeah, that was one thing I really want to know. And it was a question you wanted to ask during the press conference was, how big's the leak?
Yeah.
Like, we're talking a massive rocket. Let's try to comprehend it. How quickly will it take to fill a bucket? And the sentence literally from, I believe it was Jim Free, part of the SLS team, was, this is not a bucket counting situation.
Yeah.
That's not something you ever want to hear when you're talking about a leak of any sort. He was saying, in rocketry, of course, there's the triangle of fire that you never want. We had 2 of them, and we just needed an ignition source, and we would have had some sort of explosion, and that's the big risk with this that we're playing. That's why there's exclusion zones for it. His answer to it was the second point with the hydrogen. If that was, let's say 0, we have no chance. We had a 1. If we had an ignition, we would have had an explosion. They were at a 2 to 3 at minimum when they were having their warnings. And if they had let it go, it would have been higher. So we're not talking a tiny little explosion. Booster 7 down in Starbase would have been a little example of what would have happened if SLS had an ignition source today. So definitely, obviously, we always say it, scrubs are better than RUDs, even though we've flown literally from all over Canada, US, and the UK to be here. And many other people. We talked to lots of people that have driven in, flown in for this. It really hyped up, Artemis I. But I think it's where you're used to SpaceX.
Yeah.
We're used to this rapid advancement. This is older technology kind of coming back. This is government rocketry coming back. We need to get used to things take time, and it has to be done slowly. NASA can't afford to blow up 5 of these and then get it right on the 6th. They have to get this one right, so they need to take their time.
See, I made the point earlier. I was saying, like, I don't know if you remember me saying, I was saying, like, it's old tech that we've used before, so why isn't it launching straight away? They know how to do it. But I was thinking, well, A, it hasn't been used in so long, and B, they have had to make changes to modernize it and make it work for today. So I kind of realized why it's still not working. I mean, like you said, I think I was stuck in the SpaceX mindset where everything's running lovely and smooth with the Falcons.
Yeah.
So
Falcon last week. You got Falcon tomorrow. It's gonna be pretty good there. Depot Dolphin. I'd prefer actual launch attempts instead of wet dresses, as during a wet dress, the rocket could be fully ready for launch, but as it isn't in an official attempt, they can't even fly. It's an interesting point, and maybe that's the way they market it. Like, I think that's the biggest thing that kind of hurt this in just like the public image. And it was asked during the press conference today, when is exhaustion going to set in? You said you're going to do it, then we hit delays. We're finally here. You have an attempt, doesn't work. You have another attempt a week later, it doesn't work. Now we're rolling back. How many times can we tell America and the world, hey, we're going back to the moon, before people start to get exhausted? And gosh forbid it explodes. Yeah. If it flies. It's not going to survive public scrutiny, I don't think. We want it to. We need it to. But it's finding that balance of making sure we tell people correctly what's going to happen. And maybe call it a wet dress rehearsal, maybe launch, so people don't plan. Because I know lots of people that spent a lot of time and money to get out here. And they got to see a cool rocket on the pad. Don't get me wrong. It's still amazing to see a moon rocket out there. But we'll hopefully see it fly soon.
Yeah, hopefully. On that note, I did see another comment come through asking if we would be here in October. I know I certainly will be trying my absolute hardest, although I do have work commitments, so I'm going to have to try and, do what I can to get some more days off to come down, which I'm going to do my absolute hardest. I know probably a lot more of the TLP team will probably get down here, though, for coverage. I just hope I'm one of them.
Well, you'll be here. We're making sure you're going to be here. And I'll be down here, of course. We'll have our video team locally here. And maybe some new things that we'll get to share closer to that we're working on, that'll help bring even better coverage. And that's only thanks to your guys' support there. If you want to know more about things that we're working on and helping advance our coverage, if you hit that join button, head over to Patreon. You can become a member. You can get early video access. You can get beta testing access. If you know what beta testing access is, that's inferring what we're going to be launching in the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye out for that. Our members are going to be seeing that roll out in the next few probably days, end of the week. So give us a couple days there. So lots of things in the movement that we could talk for hours on, the number of things that are working on them behind the scenes. But we're here to talk Artemis, so keep sending in those questions and we'll be answering them live. Strato, they mentioned that they were thinking of possibly fixing the issues on the pad, immediately cryo-testing the fix, and then rolling it back to the VAB. We'll definitely have to see on that one. I did hear that was something they're looking at. I think it depends on how major of a valve issue it is. So they will be able to see on swapping it out and doing it. Ultimately, they're going to have to do some level of testing. They did say they won't have to fully fuel a rocket, even with a repair. They'll be able to fuel it basically to the point where they get into fast fill of the hydrogen, which means that they will be less than 50% of oxygen in the core stage. But I mean, you're still talking hundreds of thousands of gallons of liquid oxygen being loaded into this rocket to do a test.
Yeah, but how surprised were we today when we found out that the LOX was fully loaded and there was less than 10% of the hydrogen loaded? We were like, wait, what?
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure they say it has to be like above 10 for the hydrogen for them to go over 50 of the oxygen. And then it was higher, and they seemed okay with it, but they were working lots of issues. We have a request in actually to have some of the kind of transcripts of mission control, and if we can get those for you guys, keep an eye out on our Twitter. We'll be putting those out there and kind of breaking down, just wanting to hear what happened actually in mission control, because the launch director took longer than the teams did. They were given a no-go recommendation 30-45 minutes before they actually officially scrubbed for the day and made everybody sad in the hot sun. So I'm interested to see what was said in that time. Why did they not just scrub it for those 45 minutes? Was there something data-wise they were trying to test? Was there another fix they were doing that they ultimately knew wouldn't launch it, but let's try it, we're here, it's fully fueled? So we'll keep an eye out for that. Keep sending in your guys' questions. Take us at the launch pad. We're giving an update and answering all your questions about today's Artemis I launch attempt. John, please tell me when the next window will be and how they're calculated. I don't understand launch windows. Absolutely, that's an important one. You want to handle when it is, and then I can go how they're picked.
Okay, so it wasn't, again, it's not entirely official as of yet because we don't know to what extent the fixing that they need to do and the rollouts and so forth. But with the dates we've got, it's between October 17th up to the 31st of October. But the durations of these windows vary quite a lot. They vary from 120 minutes down to like 7-minute window, which is, we don't think they'll go for, but yeah.
Based on typical NASA, I don't think they're 7 minutes.
That's too short a
Someone
window.
sneezes wrong, and
Yeah.
you're out of the window.
You'll set your camera up and it'll be like, oh, that's going back down again.
Yeah, like today, basically. Let's try. Oh, I got the white focus. Oh, we're scrapped. Okay, it is what it is. But picking launch windows, there is a lot of parameters that go into them. Not everything is public. For that, the major parameters for SLS on this variant right now is Orion. Orion has limitations on how long it can be in darkness. For its power usage. So they do have to watch out for that. I believe it can't be in the dark for more than 90 minutes at any point in its mission. And that is why we had this last 3 days that we had no launch attempt. It was not because the range wasn't available or the rocket or anything. It was because if they launched, it wouldn't work. There was a constraint on Orion. There's constraints on the rocket. There's constraints on the range. Obviously, weather's a major factor. There's actually parts of the impact of the moon's pull on the rocket, not actually on the planet, but on the rocket itself that they have to monitor, how long the rocket can sit out there. Tons of things that go into those launch parameters and launch windows, which is why we do have the launch windows for the next year. I'll retweet that out tonight, along with what the October ones are looking like. So keep an eye out for that. But we do have windows all the way to next June already determined. So we do have. I hope we don't need till June.
I really
hope we
not.
don't need to June.
Well,
We'll see what happens.
yeah, I'd say it should be good anyway, because either way, it's been a good trip. I mean, we've seen Falcon launch already. We're going to be covering tomorrow's launch, so it's still a good trip. It's just a bit of a letdown, especially when we're quite confident about today. So we'll see how it goes, and we'll keep updating as and when we find information out.
Yeah. Golden, what month do you think SLS will launch? Ooh. If you had to guess, based on your feelings now, roughly, do you think it's making October?
If I had to give a guess, I'd probably say it won't fit in the first 70% of the window that they've given us, and then and maybe the same amount of days, but I don't think it'd be that. It probably maybe from the 29th into the first week of the following month. That's about it. I reckon.
So the very end of this
absolute
window.
earliest.
Yeah, I'm feeling November. I feel like they might try for October, but I feel like if we look at the range availability, and we also have to remember we're in the middle of hurricane season, so we could say we were all down here for the launch. There was actually a storm developing in the ocean that we were keeping an eye on, and luckily it turned and didn't come to Florida. But those things take 2-3 days to develop, and that could throw the entire sequence because one, they have to protect the rocket, but two, there could be other damage to the range that has to be monitored during that weather. And if the rocket's out there and a hurricane attempt happened and they couldn't get it in, obviously there's going to have to be a lot of checkouts before they launch a vehicle like that. So we'll keep a close eye on that. Dark is asking any other free viewpoints you'd recommend, not including Sandpoint or Nicole Park. Nicole was our go-to.
I'm saying Nicole Park was our go-to. We had mods and everything there watching, and I think they can vouch for the fact that the view was amazing.
Was it good?
It was
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You see the bottom of the rock. You can see the bottom of SLS from the Nicole Park.
well, there you go then. So you can see basically, you can see all of the rocket from where you are. Granted, it's far away, but I mean,
But it's not $250 a person.
it's not $250.
Free parking.
Yeah,
And if it blows up,
you're in the safe zone.
Your ears might ring, but
Yeah.
you're still safe. There's a lot of parks all along the Titusville region. Depending on the pad, another really kind of great one is down by Port Canaveral. There's a number of places you can pull off the highway that have kind of outset parking lots for fishing. Those get absolutely packed on launches. There was people sleeping there a couple days before Artemis. So lots of places, depending on what type of setup you're wanting to do. Are you wanting to crash in your car for a day? Or are you wanting to get up, a couple hours before launch, drive down the road, and park at a park? So lots of options depending how long you're here. Also, a number of hotels there's been some new hotels going up that have decent views. Also, keep in mind, this thing is a huge rocket. When it ignites, the flames out of the SRB are 2.5 to 3 times the height of the entire rocket. You will be able to see this from Orlando. If this was a night launch, you could see this as far north as North Carolina, which I don't think we have any night windows on it.
Night when that launches.
Actually, we would. If we go for this October window, almost all the windows up until the first 2/3 of the window are in the middle of the night, which the temperature would be so much nicer.
It would.
It's really hot and humid down here, so a 2 a.m. launch sounds great to me. But we'll have to see what that would be. But it would help bring a lot more people being able to see it without having to necessarily be right here for a night launch. And there's something about SRBs at night from the shuttle era that would be pretty neat to see. So
it would. It'd be like raising a new sun in the sky.
Yeah, really. It would. You can't look at it too long. You'll get dots there. So fingers crossed, something to keep an eye on. As we get closer, we've been doing a lot of research while we've been here on ideas of places you can watch. So we are working on kind of a little bit of a rough guide on places to watch Falcon 9s and SLSs in the future. So keep a close eye on that, launching on something that we'll show you soon.
What's a reason on that? If you're looking at 39 A or B, you want to be at Nicole Park, but you can tell the Falcon for the south.
Definitely look what pad you're watching from, because you do have to deal with the curvature of the Earth. And the distance. Round. So it is a round planet, believe it or not. I can confirm with my own eyes the Earth falls away. So we'll keep an eye there. If you're just joining us, let us know in the chat where you're watching from, and tag us when you're sending in those questions. We'll be answering them live. Tag us at the Launchpad. Golden, when do you think we'll hit 100K?
You're very pessimistic on this one. Go for your answer first.
Go for my answer first? What are we even at today? 88 something? Yeah. 88. Ooh. I mean, end of year would be cool. I think it would be really special to hit it by end of the year. That's the 2-year mark. That's kind of a goal. I think that would blow my mind. I can't believe we're where we are.
Do you know how many months away that is right now? We gained like 10,000 in a week.
SLS is special. We'll see what happens. No, end of the year. I think end of the year, depending how the rest of these events go for Artemis. I think that really will play a game on what happens. Does Falcon Heavy ever show up on the schedule for the rest of the year? It's sitting in the hangar ready. Does Vulcan do anything? Starship? We have a lot of stuff on the calendar that we have no idea when it's going to happen. So depending how that goes, it might be a busy end of the year. It might be a quiet end of the year. But if it's a quiet end of the year, strap in, because next year,
gonna be busy.
Elon said 55 launches this year. They're now pushing that to maybe low 60s. And he's like, let's spice it up a little bit. Next year, 100 plus Falcon 9s in a year. That's 2 a week, basically, that he wants to see. So we'll bring them to you all live here.
Every single one. Every
single one, no matter what time of the day or night it is. But we'll have to wait and see what happens for that. Straddle, I think you'll have a better idea once you find a choice of action. I definitely agree. Once NASA puts out an idea on what launch windows they're doing. We're supposed to have another press conference on Wednesday or Thursday, and we'll keep an eye out for that. A question coming in from Heather. The Launchpad does SLS twang like STS? No, it wouldn't, because of the way the main engines are. So with shuttle, if you've been to Kennedy, the ETs, SRBs, the shuttle straps on the side. The shuttle fires its engines. I know this is really not official, but it works. The shuttle fires its engines. It fires, so it pushes the rocket. It twangs back, then the SRBs, and then it goes. SLS, everything's in line with each other. So when the engines fire, the SRBs fire, it just all stays nice and stable. Now,
Yeah.
there shouldn't be a twang.
It shouldn't be.
There
but,
shouldn't be a twang.
I mean, so far this rocket surprised us all in many ways. So, never might do a backflip on the way. Who knows? Yeah. But yeah, it's supposed to be, the center of mass is right in the middle, so it shouldn't rock anywhere as it's taking off.
Yeah. Robert, will the orbit time remain constant?
Different windows have the different durations, so it depends on whether you mean the orbit, like how many times will it orbit the moon, how many times will it orbit the Earth before going to the moon, because I believe the previous, like, orbiting the Earth before going to the moon is staying the same, like 1.5 before it shoots off towards the moon. But depending on the window, it does affect the length of the mission. So it just depends on what day it launches. But it's flexible. I think we saw one for 42.
Yeah.
And I think it went down to, what was it, 30?
28 was the
28?
lowest I saw if they do a short window, which we didn't have any in this one.
No.
Every other window, I believe, the rest of the year has short and long duration spots within a window. This was one of the only ones that had all long, which the team was obviously excited about. It means more data and research for that first mission, but ultimately we're talking missions that are multiples of what we used to do with Apollo for just the length of time actually in lunar orbit. So we'll wait to see here. I see Daniel just jumped on, just got here. What's happening? No launch, ? Sadly, no. Artemis I is still on the ground a few miles from here. Still safe on the pad. Teams are working on processing through drainage and safing the pad and figuring out kind of their next steps on it. So no launch today, but they have officially said this launch window is done. There will be no longer a launch attempt on Monday or Tuesday, which would be the only 2 remaining days in the window. Unsure if they'll do a full rollback or not at this time, but everything's pointing that they will have to do it at least for the flight termination system, let alone if they have to do it for actual repairs and possibly wet dress rehearsals. So,
well, there was a linked issue with it, wasn't there? Because there was the leak initially got it scrubbed, but then when they were going to detanking, they then could not detank it. I'm guessing through the same line.
Yeah, we had heard that they were having some issues with detanking following it. We haven't heard a lot more, so the rocket's not bending anymore. So we figured they've gone through it. Maybe it just couldn't do the faster detanking like they'd be used to. But it is something that did pop up that they were looking at. So we've sent in some requests for information through NASA to get some updates there. So we'll keep an eye on that. And anything that we hear, we will bring to you as soon as we can from either here in Florida or possibly heading out to Starbase or back from the main studio as well. So keep a close eye on that. And then, of course, we'll be back down here for the next launch attempt. But, yeah, if you're just joining us, Daniel, or anyone else, you can keep sending in those questions in the chat. We'll be working on answering those live for the next little bit here. And it looks like some of them are showing up on the screen with our system there. So that is thanks to your guys' support, us being able to bring those upgrades online and just be able to engage with you guys even better. Teapot Dolphin, your growth is insane right now. Try not to be jealous. Well, we appreciate the support, Teapot Dolphin, and you guys being here. You guys are what makes this possible. We could do all this, but if you guys don't show up, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So that's why we get to be here. We get to be pressed with NASA and get to be part of that pretty small group of people that get to be invited to these things. So we're grateful.
Oh, yeah, big time. Like you've just said, without the viewers, I mean, we might as well be speaking into a mirror. So,
I mean, there's a TV. I mean,
yeah, but no, it's without you guys, it's really nothing. I mean, even I probably wouldn't be here because I at first I was a viewer at the very start of the channel. I mean, I just hopped in and I jumped in and I was like, yeah, this is a great place to be. Everyone seems really nice. So, yeah, and now look at it now. It's, what is it, a year and a half later since I got around?
Something like that. Pulled you in for a crane lift, and
yeah.
He hasn't left. Now
Yeah.
you're going to be an on-air host. Even more exciting.
Yeah, it's getting places.
Yeah. Let's see here. We are working on getting some of these questions pulled in the queue. So if you have questions, if you haven't had them answered yet, send them in the chat again. Make sure you tag us at the launch pad in that. That flags it into the system, so we can try to make sure we don't miss any of these for the rest of the evening here.
In the meantime, I did see Daniel. I did see you'd asked a couple of questions there, so I might try and cover a couple of those for you here. I saw one saying what does scrubbed mean. Scrubbed just means it's not going to happen for the day. They've cancelled the launch for the day due to issues, weather, whatever it may be in the day. So they're not launching that day and moving it to a later date. And I also saw, where's it gone? Is there a new date? Yes, well, an unconfirmed date. That's between August 17th and August 31st. October.
I hope it's not August because that means a year.
It's been a long week. Yeah, October 17th and October 31st. My apologies. So we'll be updating as time progresses and as they work on the rocket and give us more information. We will be updating you all on any confirmed dates, but I think this is just like preliminary data that we're going off at the moment, but we will get more as we progress. So, how are these questions doing?
Good. We have one here. Rocket launches today. Have we told Kieran he's a permanent co-host yet? I think that maybe just happened. I would think
I haven't heard it in words yet.
Permanent, maybe? If
maybe.
You want to? I don't know. What do you guys think? Let us know in the chat.
Yeah.
Should we keep Kieran around? Keep him on air.
Yeah, drop a, I don't know. What should we drop in chat?
Drop a 1 for yes and a 0 for no.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that. So we'll be doing that there. Robert Rocks, what will the time the rocket orbits change and remain consistent? Answer that a little bit there. It does change on the length of time that they can be actually in lunar orbit, and they technically can launch into low Earth orbit and remain. They can be in a safe, stable orbit before they do their lunar transfer ejection or burns. So something that we have to keep an eye on there, that they could, if weather's good, launch, hold, and then go. But generally, you don't want to do that because you're already using your resources on Orion, and we would never do that with people. So why would we do that during an actual test flight? Great question there. Amnita is the launchpad is the reason why it was scrubbed these last 2 times happened during their wet dress rehearsal. Sort of. So the big issue that we had during the first launch attempt was because one of the engines couldn't chill, which I don't even think we got that far into the count today.
No, we didn't. They did say they were going to start it early, but I don't know if they actually got around to starting it. I think we must have been getting close because they didn't even start. They didn't get to the fueling stage they did today last time.
Yeah, they didn't even get to the second stage at all today. So I don't think we got near. We definitely didn't get near as deep into the countdown as we did last time for it. So I mean, we don't fully really know if they even had fixed engine 3 at this point. They say they had done it, but ultimately, until you actually try to do it, we wouldn't know for that.
But they did have leaks on the first.
We've had leaks pretty much every wet dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
So it is something that we're keeping an eye on how that will perform going forward. Will they be able to fix leaks? It seems like kind of the in thing to have.
Yeah,
we had it with Starliner. Yeah, we had it with Starliner. Then Dragon had one for a little bit, and now we're passing it off to not Orion, but to SLS directly.
Yeah, they need to get rid of the vegetables.
That's not where I thought that was going to go, but okay. The big one, they had a lot of LOX full through this time, and hydrogen was 4%. How come LOX was full? I know LOX we saw absolutely get to 100%. Hydrogen we saw between 8 and 10% during that time, so it is something that was definitely less. They do have parameters they need. I believe it's at least 7 or 8% at a minimum for them to go over 50% of liquid oxygen in the core stage of the rocket. So they were technically over that, but just barely. And depending how that leak was performing would ultimately impact how they would be able to move forward. So they were having to keep an eye on that. But if you guys are just joining us, keep sending in those questions, tagging us at the Launchpad. We're working on answering those live for you here tonight. And if you haven't yet, engage that subscribe button so you never miss another live launch coverage, space briefing, space news update, and there's probably going to be a lot of space briefings coming up in the coming weeks with Artemis and some exclusive interviews. We got some of those coming up in the near future, so keep an eye out for those.
So while we wait for a couple of questions to drop in, curiosity killed the cat. I want to look through these comments and see how many ones and zeros we got.
How many ones and zeros we got? Let's see.
We're going the wrong way, aren't you?
Are we? Are we going the wrong way? I don't see any ones or zeros.
There. Oh, wait, we got one.
We got
twos.
a 2. There's
What's
a 2.
twos?
What's a 2 mean? Depot Dolphin, what's a 2 mean?
Kevin.
Oh,
Kevin.
Kevin's a 0.
Kevin's getting kicked out of the house. Kevin sat across from me. Kevin, you can sleep outside.
Lots of 1s. I think there's a couple 69s. So I mean that's always a good time. So we'll keep an eye. I think that's a yes.
Other than Kevin, I think I didn't see any zeros.
I didn't know.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah. So maybe we'll have to do a Discord poll or something. But I'm on board with it.
All right, that's okay.
We'll go from there. NASA's in the chat. Hello, NASA. What type of rocket will NASA use for future Mars missions? Will it be similar to Artemis or much different?
You tell us, you're not.
I don't know. We'll see. Can you get SLS off the ground? No, this is NASA's moon rocket. This is NASA's Mars rocket. This is NASA's asteroid rocket. That is what has been signed in by Congress. This is a deep space exploration vehicle.
Deep launch pad.
Deep launch pad?
Yeah, I mean, it's not left the launch pad, so it must be going down into it.
Maybe. The longer it sits there. It's something to keep a close eye on, that they will be using this for in the future for these deep space exploration missions. They will have add-ons that will be launched likely on other vehicles, and they'll meet in orbit. So we were looking at it today, actually, at KSC, that there is some habitats that have been at least mocked up to be able to be put up into low Earth orbit, docked with Orion for these deeper space missions. They're not going to have 4 people live in Orion on a 6 or 7 month mission to Mars. So we'll keep an eye on that. And of course, we all know and love Starship. That is the human landing system that NASA has for the moon. And I think there's a great chance we see that. Obviously, SpaceX will be using that for Mars and beyond. But depending how SLS goes and how Starship is proven, I think ultimately, because of budgets, NASA will be forced to start using that more and more, even though right now they're not allowed to.
Yeah. On that note, there is a common question that's asked, like, why are they doing SLS when they know that Starship could basically make it obsolete in however long the period of time is? Because I know I had that question, but I know you answered it the other day. Why they're making SLS and not just sending Starship there?
Government.
Government. They put it down that what was it NASA had to do, or the SLS was the one that had to do it?
Yeah, there's some stuff that went through Congress. There's been $28.6 billion as of 2020 spent on the Artemis program so far, and basically NASA has been told if Americans want to send people to the moon, they need to use the Space Launch System. There has been too much money poured into it for them to scrap it like an Ares 1X and move on. So they do need to use that vehicle for it. Now, they're obviously doing these contracts for human landing systems, for cargo landing systems, and for other missions in the future. So it's possibility we'll see SLS kind of change its plans in the future. Right now, up to 15 have been kind of rough planned or budgeted. We just saw recently the last 5 or 6 of those get put into request for informations for contracts for construction. So they don't actually have dedicated missions planned yet, but we've heard up to Artemis 15 at least referred to by NASA now. So we'll be hopefully seeing more information like that coming in the near future. And I'm seeing a scrub launch system. I have to say, we might have a couple fun shirts coming tomorrow. Yeah. So keep an eye out on the Discord if you maybe want some light-hearted Artemis t-shirts.
Yeah.
I'll say it, though. I kind of like the orange rocket.
Yeah, I do.
Starship's cool, but it's a cool rocket.
It is.
We want it to work. It needs to work. It's going to be NASA's last rocket. No matter what happens, SLS will be NASA's last rocket before they go to using commercial crews. NASA is amazing at science. Nobody else could do James Webb. No one else could do Hubble. There are, they can do that well. They can do the research well, and they're in that transition period to where they will use private and commercial companies to actually do the deployments and getting crews up and down for things there.
See, on that note as well, and like you were saying, they're great with science and stuff. Like, I know this is probably their last rocket, but do you think they'll make further science developments, put in someone else's rocket and send that up, and
like payloads, or
special like even an even better James Webb?
I would hope so. I think they're good at doing it. I think it depends on what the mission would be, but I definitely think that NASA, they have the vision, I think, of looking, a lot of companies like SpaceX, amazing at building rockets, don't build telescopes. Yeah. They probably could build James Webb, but that's not where their expertise is. So why not go where the expertise is and have them build the best possible telescope, and SpaceX worries about getting it deployed, or Vulcan, or a number of other rockets that are coming online in the near future.
Yeah. So remember, keep those questions coming in with, and remember, tag it with @thelaunchpad. We're trying out a new system here, so if you make sure you add the tagline, it'll appear on our screen here. We're just trying it out, but it won't appear on our system here if it's not tagged. So make sure you remember that tag.
Yeah, and Daniel remembered the tag there. So we got Daniel. When will the new mobile launch tower for SLS Block 2 be ready? Well, we saw the crawler parked out there today. The secondary crawler. The other mobile launcher they are working on, going through plans for it. Obviously, the tower will be slightly taller for the Block 2 vehicles. Right now, Block 2 is still a ways down the pipeline, so it's not something that we're going to be seeing in the next year or two. We're going to be having some time until we get to that point. So end of the decade for sure, we should see it. I'd probably say 2025 is Artemis 3. So 2026 or 7, it has to be ready.
Yeah.
Sooner than later. Obviously, they still have to do some testing. We saw them do rollouts of the mobile launcher, even with the tower, prior to having an SLS. Obviously, testing all of that. So in the next, I'd say 3 years or so, we should start seeing that really start to come together. I have no idea how to say your name.
I know Pokemon, yeah.
Oh, you know, okay.
Right.
That's all yours.
Zygote. Zygote. Sorry, the first one I know Pokemon. The first part, Zygote. When will SLS's third attempt launch? So it was supposed to be Monday, but after today's events, we don't think that will be happening. I mean, it's not official yet. It's basically
as official as NASA's going to get.
Yeah, so we don't think it's going to happen Monday. There's too much that needs to be doing with SLS. It's not worth running it through again just to get the scrub. So they're probably going to roll it back within the next week or so. They're going to roll it back, do some work on it, roll it back out, do some tests, roll it back in, do more stuff, and roll it back out. 3 or 4, 2 or 3 times.
We're going to get used to seeing these things roll out. So
yeah, we'll start to think it's just a car. So
maybe it'll roll to the moon.
Yeah, maybe we'll build a big bridge.
There we go.
But yeah, so but the preliminary dates that we have been given for launch is October 17th through to the October 31st.
Halloween launch.
I know, right?
Do you think we could convince them to just put a little bit of black paint
for a pumpkin
on the core stage? Just like a little pumpkin face.
That would be pretty cool.
Or paint the SRBs orange instead of red.
Put bat wings on it.
Ooh.
That would be the answer. But yeah.
What would you paint on SLS for Halloween? Let us know in the comments there. We got one from Robert here. What happens after Artemis? What happens on the next mission, please? So Artemis is a program. It's the Artemis generation. So they're right now Artemis 1 through 15 will be missions to the moon, and then I don't think there'll be Mars just yet in those numbers. We got a lot of work to do on the moon and building a base that will be permanently inhabited, just like we are doing with the space station. That's going to take a while to do, but we want to build a base at least that we will visit at first, and then eventually we'll get to the point where we can inhabit just like the International Space Station, and then they will move on to Mars. NASA has said Mars is something that they're not really worrying about until like the 2040s, kind of at this point. They want to worry about the moon. So late 2030s, early 2040s, they'll start doing missions out to Mars with people. That's their hope.
I can't wait for that.
That's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have people on Mars by the end of the decade privately.
Yeah, privately, yes.
Do they come home? I don't think so.
I might say, I wouldn't say permanent. I'd say maybe a very long stay.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll be coming home very quickly.
No. I think it's going to take a while to get them actually home.
Yeah.
But I think they'll come home.
Oh, they will.
I think as long as, if the rockets work, if we can get people there and get them down, we'll be able to get them home.
Yeah.
I think if we can do that. I think, is there a chance stuff happens along that ways? Absolutely. We're talking landing on a whole other planet. It's not a moon. It's another planet. And that doesn't even get us into the asteroid landings we want to do, the asteroid capturings we want to do. So there's a lot of stuff coming up in the near future. So make sure you keep an eye closely on that there. And there's that one.
Pumpkin Fest. Is it a night launch on the 31st? It's not, sadly. It's on the 31st is aimed for a 3:31 p.m. Launch.
And it's a short window. It's only 18
minutes. Yeah. So sadly,
I mean, we could have an early Halloween.
Yeah, the first, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, possibly 6. The first 6 windows are all early morning. So the first 6 should be in pretty dark light, like very, very low lighting. So you never know. We could get away with a creepy looking pumpkin on an early morning.
Let's see. The question coming in from Daniel. This is one that I've thought about a lot and really, really like. Do you see NASA eventually becoming the space version of the FAA? I would like. I'm not sure specifically FAA, but like part of that. NASA knows orbit. They know that. The hard thing is, though, NASA is the U.S. government. It kind of has this global entity feel of this is what we do when we do stuff in space. NASA is one government agency. I'm from Canada. That's the Canadian Space Agency, who works with NASA. We had representatives here this week. Here from the UK. We had representatives from the European Space Agency that were here that represent all of Europe. So there are lots of agencies that work with NASA. NASA is just the big brand that kind of everyone knows for it. For the Artemis program, there is the Artemis Accords, which are a new kind of space treaty, reworking the space treaty from the 1980s. The 1980 space treaty has 100 and I believe it's like 30 countries, 40 countries that have signed on or agreed. It was a big thing to have that many countries, and some of these are ones you would never think would have signed based on current day. Yeah. Now, the Artemis Accords are sitting under 30 that have signed it so far. There's a number of countries considering it, but it is a smaller number so far, and they're quite strict rules on what the kind of future of Artemis will look like. It immediately says, if you go to Mars or the Moon or anywhere in between, this is not land for your country. This is not space for your country. If you mine it, you have to equally share that with other agencies that have done it. There's a lot of rules on how, when your payloads are going, the tracking that has to be available for all the agencies. It is a very different space program that we've seen in the past of wanting to collaborate and go together. So within that, would NASA become the FAA? No, but I think NASA would be a really great entity. And maybe it's a weird idea because it links to sci-fi, but like, we are very much at the edge of needing not necessarily a federation because of like other planets, but we need something to help govern interplanetary travel between our planet and Mars and the Moon and everything between. We need something to oversee that. And the Artemis Accords is great because it does set those standards of kind of like the Federation in a way, if you're a fan, but it is still governed by government agencies. And we're in this awkward part where we still are trying to figure out, how does that work? Government is here. That's our earthly thing. Yeah. How does government work on other planets? How
can you govern space, basically?
How can you govern space? How can you govern a planet that isn't your soil when someone else lands? Yeah. We're looking at landing at the south pole of the Moon. Russia and China also want to land there. If the U.S. goes first and we leave, and then Russia lands somebody, well, it's not the U.S. land, so they can't say, hey, they could say, hey, get away, but they have no legal stake of saying get away.
Yeah, they have no grounds.
Because NASA is saying they can't stake claim to the land, the air rights, or the ground rights of anywhere. So it's an interesting place to be. There isn't a right answer. It's going to take decades to work out an answer. NASA, the FAA, as the space FAA, no, but there's something. There's things working, I'd say, in the back end that'll eventually come out of that.
Yeah. So we have a question here from Beam Me Up, Mr. Scott. Oh, I see what you did there. I like that. Beam me up, Mr. Scott. Can Artemis still complete its mission if one of its RS-25 engines fail? So it depends when it fails. If it well, either way, it's not going to be a success. But if it was before takeoff, then it wouldn't launch. So it wouldn't leave the pad. If it failed during flight, I imagine it wouldn't end very well for the rocket, because it wouldn't go up very straight. And then if you spin the rocket, the fuel goes the wrong way, and it can end in a pretty bright flash in the sky. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if one of them failed, it wouldn't work. It's been designed to work on all 4 engines plus the solid fuel boosters to get it up there. If one of them fails, the whole thing's failed.
If an SRB fails, you've done something very wrong.
Then you start doing somersaults in the sky as the one goes.
That's when we get the announcement, evacuate to safety shelters.
Yeah.
That's the email you love getting from NASA when you come for a rocket launch. This is your muster station. This is how you get there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Good to know.
That's how you know you're in the danger zone.
Yeah, that's how you know when you're close. And then they're like, oh, it's 130 decibels for 2 minutes next year. That's the loudness of a jackhammer. Okay.
Yeah, in your ear.
In your ear. We're bringing earplugs. That sounds like a plan. But I think you were right on there. Also, it depends when it fails. During the actual shuttle period, the RS-25s, obviously Space Shuttle's main engines, they only ever had one abort to orbit because of an RS-25 failure. So they didn't abort to come home. They were able to abort to orbit. They just went to a very shallow orbit and then maneuvered back up to stable, and then they were able to come home because shuttle's a glider. So it is possible, depending on where it fails, to get to an orbit, because then the core stage drops away and the second stage will take over. So there are parameters, but most of the time it'll either mean an issue with the failure of the vehicle low orbit or low Earth atmosphere, or some sort of long range abort. Keep in mind, we're going back to the Apollo era where Orion is on a launch escape system. Not for Artemis I, it's a fake system that's there, but Artemis II in future. If something goes wrong with the core stage and crews or the system detect that the astronauts are at risk, they will blow that emergency stage and save the crew. And if we ever saw that with the RS-25, obviously safety is that first priority.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Any more coming in there?
Give us a refresh here, see if it's coming in. If you guys are just joining us, though, kind of an update from the Artemis I stream. We're going to be keeping up our 24/7 feed as long as we can with live feeds from NASA. Unfortunately, they forgot to fix the camera again. So you can't see the rocket on the pad tonight, but I promise you it is fully lit up, and the rocket is still there. It's still there, and you'll see it bright and early tomorrow when the sun starts to rise again here on the Space Coast. And we'll be keeping an eye out for updates from NASA over the coming week while we're still down here on site, and then making our ways back to our home studio. So keep a close eye on that, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any more launches. We'll be live tomorrow for Starlink, launching from Slick 40 here at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. But I think that was the last one that I saw come in. So I think we maybe we'll wrap it up with that. Let us know if you're watching the replay. Let us know replay down in the comments below after this for it. And we love, once the stream ends, refresh the stream and let us know in the actual comments, not the live chat, but in the comments, what you think of this. If you'd like to see this type of kind of show, be weekly, monthly, what you would like to see on the channel for other live content and shows. If you were here early in the year, you might have seen the launch pod. We are working on bringing that back. We're really excited about that, and working on some other live shows as well. So let us know what you guys want to see, because the launch pad, it's space is better together, and we want your guys' feedback on what you guys want to see and what's maybe missing from the world as we go in this next era of space exploration.
Well, on that note of what you might want to see, well, I mean, if you want to join in the Discord, which we will put a link in the comments now, we'll drop that in now. We'll probably put something on there where you can put what you want to see, like you said, the launch pod. Might even want to see more British people on stream, or more commonly. But yeah, we got a big thumbs up from Kevin over there. Cheers, Kevin. But yeah, we'll drop some stuff in the Discord so we can get your opinion on what you want to see. Because again, we can't do this without you. So we obviously want to make the stream what you want to see. Because obviously there will be quiet periods where there won't be like 24-hour live streams. There might not be as many launches. So we want to fill the gaps in with things you want to see. I mean, that doesn't mean we're only going to do it in quiet periods, but it helps, fill in that quiet time. You can still ask questions on whatever you like. We will be able to answer those questions to the best of our ability, as and when we can.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Yeah. And also make sure following us over on Twitter. That's where we tweet space news as it happens. Check out our shop, launchpad.store. That's where you can get all of your Launchpad gear and space gear, as well as keep an eye out for some fun. What was it? Artemis?
Oh, Artemis.
Artemis gear, maybe? We'll wait to see. Artemis? I mean, last year it was Scrubtober. We had a lot of scrubs last year in October. So maybe we're just going to have that for this month. So keep an eye on that. And make sure you check out our Patreon or hit the join button here. That's where you help us expand our equipment. We got some big plans for stuff there. We got a whole bunch of new gear for Artemis I, and it's just going to stay in the bag and be ready for when we get back down here in October or November for the next launch attempt. But with that, that's going to wrap it up for us here down on the Space Coast. Stay tuned for more live updates from here as we wait for updates from NASA on Artemis I. But that's going to do it for us here tonight. Here at the Launchpad, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers tomorrow because we believe that space is better together. And this is Zach and Kieran signing off. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.